All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to try and map out the incredibly complex world of enterprise security careers. Look, it's a field with massive opportunities, for sure, but figuring out how to navigate it, that's a whole other story.
And you know, this quote from security expert Tony Ridley it hits the nail on the head. He says it's like a multi-story, multi-tenanted, high-rise apartment block. Think about that. It's not some neat, single path. It's this huge building with tons of different apartments, different floors, different keys. So the big question is, how on earth do you find your way around? It's a huge challenge for the industry right now.
And that challenge? Well, it gets right to the core problem we're facing. We've got an aging workforce, right? And at the same time, the training out there is, let's just say it's all over the place. What that's created is this massive skills gap. And that's not just a problem for companies. It leaves our whole economic infrastructure kind of vulnerable, which is a scary thought. Okay, but it's not all doom and gloom. There is a solution. The U.S. Department of Labor actually got together with leaders in the industry, and they created a blueprint, a real roadmap to make sense of this Tower of Babel, as they call it. And it's called the Enterprise Security Competency Model.
So let's really dig into this thing. What you're looking at is the roadmap. This pyramid, it shows you exactly how skills are supposed to build on each other. You start with the basics at the bottom, the stuff everyone needs, and you work your way up, layer by layer, to the really specialized, high-level stuff at the top.
But hang on, before we start climbing, we gotta be clear on one word: competency. What does that even mean? It's not just about knowing something like in your head. A competency is something you can actually do. It's a skill you can prove, that you can measure, that shows you can apply what you know to get a job done right.
All right, Section 1, building the foundation. Look, any tall building needs a rock-solid foundation, right? And in security, that foundation isn't what you might think. It's not about knowing a specific piece of software. It's about the core skills that literally every single person in this field needs. Doesn't matter what your business card says.
So let's zoom in on the bottom of our high-rise here. See these first three levels? Tiers 1, 2, and 3? These are the absolute non-negotiables. Think of them as the price of admission. If you want to build a real career in security, this is the bedrock. Everything else, everything, gets built on top of this.
Okay, Tier 1. This is all about what they call soft skills, your personal effectiveness. And I know words like integrity and professionalism can sound like corporate buzzwords, but here, they're not. In a field that is built entirely on trust, these are everything. They're fundamental.
Moving on up to Tier 2. These are your academic competencies. This is the stuff you'd usually learn in a more structured, school-like setting. This is the what you know part of the equation, the fundamentals of security, business, and just how to think critically and analyze a problem.
And then, to finish off that foundation, we've got Tier 3, workplace competencies. This is all about how you operate with other people. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you can't work in a team or plan and organize your work, well, you're not going to be very effective, are you?
Okay, so our foundation is poured. Now, let's start climbing. This is where we get into the path to specialization. Once you've got those first three tiers locked down, you start the journey to becoming a real expert, picking up knowledge that's specific to the security industry.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. This next section, Tiers 4 and 5, this is where you start picking your door in that big apartment building. It's the point where you stop being a generalist and you start becoming a specialist, honing in on the unique stuff that defines the security world.
So, Tier 4 is all about industry-wide technical skills. Now, these are technical, for sure, but they're skills that apply pretty much everywhere in security. So if you get really good at, say, risk management or crisis management, you have this incredible flexibility. You could work in a corporate job, a government job, you can move around.
And then we get to the top, Tier 5. This is the penthouse level. This is where you become a true deep specialist. You're focusing on the super specific risks of one industry. I mean, think about it. The security you need for a hospital is totally different from a bank, which is totally different from a nuclear power plant, right? This is where you develop that kind of deep niche expertise. All right, next section, the deciding factor. Experience versus qualification. So we've seen the map, right? The path is laid out pretty clearly. But this brings up a huge, critical question in this field. How do you actually get permission to move up? What gets you the key to the next floor?
And you hear this all the time, right? Can't you just learn this on the job? So many people think that if you just put in the years, that's all that matters.
But seriously, in a field this complex and this important, is time served really enough to get you to the top?
Well, Tony Ridley's analysis really gets to the heart of it. He says that you shouldn't be able to move up from those foundational tiers without objective and specific security qualifications and education. Basically, to get the keys to the upper floors of our high-rise, just being there for a long time isn't going to cut it. You need proof. You need verifiable qualifications.
And this is the core difference we need to understand. There's job exposure on one side and verifiable education on the other. Job exposure is informal, it's inconsistent, it's really hard to verify. A formal qualification, though? That's structured knowledge. It's measured against a standard. It proves you have the capability. They are just not the same thing.
Let me be super clear about this. Nobody is saying experience doesn't matter. It's absolutely critical, but it's the but that's important here. If you want to really climb this pyramid, if you want to get into those leadership roles, those strategic positions, experience is critical, but it's the formal education, the qualifications, that's the key that actually unlocks the door.
So what's your next move? Look, understanding this model isn't just some theoretical exercise. This is a real tool. It's something you can use, like today, to actually plan out your career path in a smart, strategic way.
So I want you to take a good, hard look at this pyramid. Find yourself on it. Where are you right now? And then, you've got to ask yourself the most important question you can for your career. What's the next key I need? What skill, what competency, what qualification is going to unlock that next door for me?